I've always believed there are two kinds of social gatherings, the ones you attend and the ones you survive. The neighborhood barbecue was definitely the second kind. Every summer, someone decides it's time for community bonding. Last year, it was a block-wide yard sale. The year before, a movie night that ended in arguments about subtitles. This year, Walter Briggs, the man who trims his hedges with military precision, decided we all needed an afternoon of warmth and togetherness. Warmth indeed. The forecast said 92 degrees. Togetherness I could handle, humidity I could not. Still, attendance was mandatory. Not officially, of course, but socially, yes. Veronica Hale was bringing artisanal cocktails. Caroline Price promised a gourmet salad, which usually meant something leafy and joyless. And Walter had bought a new grill he couldn't stop mentioning. So, at exactly 2 p.m., I arrived at the park across from our row of identical houses, armed with sunscreen, a folding chair, and a determination to observe chaos without participating in it. The first thing I noticed was the smoke, not from the grill, but from Veronica's perfume reacting with sunlight. She was radiant, wearing white, which was a bold choice considering barbecue sauce existed. "Evelyn," she called, waving her glass. "You made it. I told everyone you'd show up just to take mental notes." "I'm never one to miss a live performance," I said. Caroline approached, holding a bowl of quinoa that looked as miserable as she did. "It's too hot for this," she muttered. "Don't worry," Veronica said. "Sweating is detoxifying." "Yes," Caroline replied. "So is avoiding people." Tension, mild but promising. Walter stood by the grill like a general at war. "Medium heat, steady hand," he announced, as though the sausages were a security threat. Daniel Price, Caroline's husband, eternally polite and perpetually absent-minded, was helping him. Or rather pretending to. He flipped one burger, then checked his phone like it had better company. I took a seat near the drink table, conveniently shaded by gossip and poor decisions. That's when the dog arrived. A golden retriever, tail wagging, tongue out, the very image of optimism. No leash, no owner in sight, just pure, uninvited joy. "Whose dog is that?" someone asked. "I think it's Cooper," Emily said. "From number 46. "Oh, the newlywed's dog," Veronica added, sipping her cocktail. "Adorable creature. Pity about his owners. What's wrong with them?" Caroline asked. Veronica smiled. "They recycle, but only when people are watching. Classic Veronica, weaponizing morality." The dog trotted over to Walter, sniffed the grill, and promptly stole a hot dog. Walter nearly combusted. "Control your animal," he barked. "He's not mine," Veronica said. "I only take credit for beautiful things." Everyone laughed. Everyone except Walter, whose face was the same color as the coals. That's when the music started. Emily's idea, of course. A cheerful playlist that didn't match anyone's mood. There's something uniquely torturous about listening to "Don't Worry, Be Happy" while watching neighbors silently judge each other's potato salad. Then came the drinks. Veronica's artisanal cocktails turned out to be wine disguised as creativity. By the second round, people started relaxing, which, in this neighborhood, meant confessing things they shouldn't. Caroline whispered to me, "Veronica's flirting with Daniel again." I glanced over. Veronica was laughing too loudly at something Daniel said, which, statistically speaking, couldn't possibly have been that funny. "Maybe she's just networking," I said. "Maybe she's networking with my husband," Caroline hissed. Ah, the scent of scandal, almost as strong as the overcooked chicken. Meanwhile, the dog, Cooper, had moved on to stealing someone's burger bun and making new friends. He trotted happily from table to table, blissfully unaware that he was about to become the emotional support animal for 3 separate people. At 4:30, the sun dipped slightly, the temperature softened, and for a fleeting moment peace seemed possible. Walter finally stopped yelling. Veronica stopped laughing. Caroline stopped glaring, and then someone screamed, "Where's the dog?" Everyone froze. Cooper was gone, the key. Next hour would go down in neighborhood history. The moment when a missing retriever unraveled years of polite suburban diplomacy. The thing about a missing dog is that it reveals exactly who people are. Panic makes some neighbors noble and others theatrical. "Guess which kind we had more of? Cooper!" Emily shouted, sprinting toward the playground like a heroine in a shampoo commercial, except sweatier. Walter began issuing orders no one asked for. "Perimeter sweep. North to south. Fan out in pairs." He pointed his tongs like a general with sauce on his conscience. Veronica set down her cocktail and declared, "I will handle communications," which is how dictatorships are born. Caroline stood very still, the way people do when every option feels like the wrong one. "He couldn't have gone far," she said to no one and everyone. "I took the practical route." I whistled softly and shook a paper cup like it contained hope. Dogs don't resist the sound of attention. Search groups formed with the logic of gossip, fast, loud, and badly planned. Daniel teamed up with Veronica because of course he did. Emily ended up with Walter because the universe has a sense of humor. That left me with Caroline, which is what happens when quiet people recognize each other. We started down the path behind the picnic area, where the trees pretend to be a forest and the cicadas argue about marriage. "I'll never forgive myself if something happens to him," Caroline said. "He's not even my dog." "That's the best kind," I said. "You get the loyalty without the vet bills." She almost laughed. "Do you think Veronica told Daniel to—" She stopped. "Never mind. I think Veronica tells everyone what to do," I said. "The trick is pretending you didn't hear." A rustle to our left. I crouched, because crouching makes people think you're skilled. It was only a squirrel, livid about our lack of peanuts. I apologized on principle. From the field, Walter's voice carried like a megaphone in denial. "Eyes up! Check under tables! Check the trash! Check your assumptions!" Emily shouted back. "I found a paw print!" Walter, triumphant. "Excellent." I looked over. She was pointing at a smudge shaped like a potato chip with aspirations. We kept going until the path opened to the back parking lot of the community center. The asphalt held heat like grudges. That's when I saw it. A smear of mustard on the curb and beneath the hedge a dropped napkin with a wet paw mark. "He passed through here," I said, "and he was eating well." We followed the paw-smeared napkin trail. 2 artifacts, then a blessed clue, a half-chewed hot dog near the maintenance shed. I bent to look, then froze. The shed door was ajar. "Either our dog is learning carpentry," I said, "or someone forgot to lock up." Caroline pushed the door open with 2 fingers, as if politeness could protect her. Inside, the dim air smelled like lawnmower and secrets. A yellow extension cord coiled on a hook, a bag of charcoal on the floor, and there, scratch marks on the dust near a stack of folding chairs. "Cooper?" she whispered. A soft woof answered. He was tucked between the chairs, tail thumping, eyes apologetic in the way only dogs manage. I made choices I don't fully understand, but I regret nothing. He trotted out like a reformed criminal and licked Caroline's hand as if she'd invented hands. "Good boy," she said, voice cracking on the second word. "You gave us a scare." I clipped the plastic cup to my belt like a trophy and scratched his ears. "Let's return the celebrity," I said, before Walter calls a press conference. On our way back, Cooper led confidently, because he'd already mapped the barbecue by smell and opportunity. We emerged from the trees to the collective sigh of a community restored to its regularly scheduled judgment. Emily ran over crying. Walter declared victory. Veronica held out her arms like the dog might leap into them in slow motion. He didn't. He sat beside Caroline and leaned against her calf as if he'd chosen a religion. "Where did you find him?" Veronica asked. "In the maintenance shed," I said, contemplating a second career. Daniel exhaled in that way men do when they think relief makes them handsome. "Crisis averted," he said. and patted Cooper's head like an afterthought. That should have been the end. A lost dog, a happy reunion, a moral about leashes and humility. But endings are scarce at neighborhood gatherings. They require self-awareness. Walter returned to the grill as if the rescue had been a scheduled commercial break. "Burgers are ready," he announced. "Please collect your patties according to your doneness, preferences, and life choices." Veronica floated toward the drinks like nothing could dent her poise. Emily resumed her playlist with a song about sunshine that did not apply. The newlyweds from number 46, Cooper's actual owners, still hadn't arrived. It's remarkable how often the missing person is the responsible one. I expected the day to exhale. Instead, it sharpened. I first noticed trouble when Veronica presented Daniel with a glass and a compliment that sparkled like broken glass. "To steady hands," she said, "and men who know when to stop flipping." Caroline's shoulders stiffened. Daniel smiled the way men smile when they think a woman is a rating. "Thanks," he said. He lifted his glass. It looked like surrender. I decided to reroute fate, which is a hobby I don't recommend. "Daniel," I called, "come help me carry napkins before Walter institutes a rationing program." He blinked. "Napkins? I've seen wars start over fewer napkins." He followed me to the supply table, to the safety of paper goods. I handed him a stack and lowered my voice. "You know how this looks," I said. He swallowed, cheeks coloring. "It's not, we're just neighbors." "Of course," I said. "And I'm just a woman who never notices anything." He stared at the napkins like they contained instructions he couldn't follow. "Caroline's been distant," he said. "I'm trying." "Try where she can see you," I said, "and not where she can't unsee you." He nodded, but his eyes drifted to Veronica's reflection in the drink cooler lid. People don't realize how often surfaces tell on them. Back at the grill, Walter reached peak authority. He began dividing plates into zones. Zone A, properly charred. Zone B, lightly optimistic. Zone C, vegetarian illusions. Emily clapped. Someone booed. I leaned beside Caroline and handed her water. She took it like medicine. "Thank you," she said. "I'm fine." "You're an excellent liar," I replied. "You should charge." Her eyes softened. "Evelyn, how do you walk into these events like they can't touch you?" "They can," I said. "I just pretend I'm narrating them to someone who would enjoy the story." She smiled, briefly sincere. Then the newlyweds from number 46 finally arrived, breathless and apologetic. "We got stuck at the pet store," the husband said, which is not a sentence you open with when your dog has just terrorized a buffet. Cooper bounded over, ecstatic, then froze halfway, looked up at Caroline and sat back down beside her leg. Everyone noticed. Of course they did. Half a dozen phones rose like a chorus of witnesses. Veronica made a sound that meant content. "Cooper," the wife called, voice pitching high into hope. He wagged dutifully, then remained seated. Dogs understand loyalty as a geography, whose shadow you return to when you're done exploring. He'd picked his coordinates. "Oh," the wife said. The syllable landed like a receipt. "He's just excited. He's making choices," I said gently. "We all do." "We brought him a new harness," the husband added, lifting a bag as if evidence could outshine truth. "It's teal." "Teal is persuasive," I said, "but love is an old language." They laughed politely, the way people laugh when humor is a bandage that doesn't match the wound. Walter clanged his tongs for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, order has been restored. The dog is safe. The burgers are edible. Let us proceed to the part where we pretend to enjoy each other's company." As plates circulated, I noticed 3 conversations blooming like invasive species. 1. Veronica and Daniel, under the pretense of discussing charcoal brands, exchanging sentences that wore perfume. 2. The newlyweds negotiating with Caroline in polite, urgent whispers about weekend dog sitting. 1 offer, 2 counteroffers, and an apology that sounded like a sales pitch. 3. Emily and Walter, heads together, planning a neighborhood lost and found protocol that would require laminated maps and whistles. Walter glowed. Emily looked like she'd accidentally joined a militia. I hovered at the edge of all three, which is the perfect distance for honesty. That's when the storm finally arrived. Not weather, but memory. It blew in with a ringtone. Daniel's phone lit up on the table beside his plate. A message preview flickered into the afternoon like a moth drawn to our ruin. Veronica, you left your sunglasses at my place. Again. The word again did the heavy lifting. The way good gossip always relies on adverbs. Caroline saw it. Of course she did. Everyone always sees the thing they most need not to see. She didn't speak. She pressed her lips together and set her fork down with the precision of a surgeon. Veronica reached for her glass. Her face did not move. You have to admire that kind of discipline. Daniel fumbled, grabbed the phone, turned it over as if screens obey shame. It's not... He started and stopped, because men only have two endings to that sentence, and both are disappointing. Silence spread across the tables like spilled lemonade. Even Walter paused. Somewhere a playlist of cheerful lies kept singing. I didn't rush in. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let a moment tell the truth uninterrupted. It told it. Caroline stood. Not dramatically, quietly. She walked to the trash bin and deposited her paper plate with the ceremony of a judge accepting a plea. Then she looked at Veronica and said, "You can have him." Her tone was precise. Not permission, just release. Daniel flinched. Caroline... She turned to the newlyweds, who were clutching Cooper's new teal harness like a talisman. About the dog, she said. If you're open to it, I can keep him today, and tomorrow, and possibly the day after. The wife blinked. We thought the dog has opinions, I said. He's expressed them, Cooper wagged, sealing the contract. Veronica finally spoke. Let's not be theatrical, she said, which is the most theatrical thing you can say aloud. No theater, Caroline replied. Just logistics. She reached down and scratched Cooper's head with a tenderness that dared anyone to disagree. The newlyweds exchanged a look married people know. Is this easier if we say yes? Look. They nodded, graciously defeated by affection. Veronica tilted her chin toward the sun as if it were a spotlight. Daniel, she said lightly, help me with the plates. He didn't move. Good. Even a clock learns if you shout at it long enough. I stood and stretched. The universal gesture, for I am not available to solve this for you, but I will make space for the solution to notice itself. Emily rushed to Caroline and hugged her too tightly. Walter announced that dessert would be postponed until the smoke cleared, which was fair because, metaphorically speaking, we had plenty. You might think that's where the friendships ended, at a picnic table with a text message like a knife. But endings prefer privacy. Public scenes only write the trailers. An hour later, the crowd thinned. Veronica left first, immaculate even in retreat. Daniel lingered, unmoored, then wandered home with his hands in his pockets like a teenager who had practiced adulthood and failed the exam. The newlyweds retrieved the teal harness and gave Caroline a folded note with their numbers as if she hadn't already memorized them. Walter sanitized the tongs, then his aura. Emily promised to start a dog-sitting calendar with color coding and then asked me what color heartbreak should be. Sepia, I said. It ages well. By sunset, we were down to crumbs, paper plates, and the final act. The part where people either apologize or pretend they never learned how. Caroline sat on the grass with Cooper's head in her lap, stroking his ears like a prayer. She looked neither triumphant nor broken, just decided. I sat beside her. Adoptions usually require paperwork, I said. You've skipped gracefully to the good part. She smiled without looking up. He came back to me, she said. No leash, he just came back. That's how you know, I said. With dogs and with people, she laughed softly. You're not talking about Daniel. No, I said. I'm talking about you. We watched the last of the smoke curl into the dusk, a ribbon of what-ifs dissolving into what now. Across the street, porch lights flicked on one by one like a constellation finally remembering its lines. Somewhere Veronica's door closed with elegance. Somewhere else, Daniel practiced a speech he would not finish. Cooper sighed, the heavy, satisfied exhale of a creature who has successfully located his person. He dozed. Caroline wiped her eyes in a way that respects mascara. I packed my chair. Keep him tonight, I said. Tomorrow we'll tell the neighborhood what they already know. And the day after? She asked. The day after, you buy dog food, I said. Teal bag if you want to match. She laughed. And it sounded like the kind of beginning that doesn't apologize for arriving late. As I walked home, I glanced back at the park, the scene of our afternoon survival, and gave it the courtesy of a nod. It had hosted our pride, our mistakes, our hunger, our almosts. Not bad for a rectangle of grass with ambitions. Back in my kitchen, I poured tea I finally intended to drink. I checked my phone. The group chat was quiet, not out of respect, but out of exhaustion. Before I set it down, a new message appeared, from the newlyweds. Thank you. He clearly loves her. We'll stop by tomorrow to discuss everything. I sent back a heart. Rare for me, but fitting. Then I added, bring the teal harness. It deserves a happy ending. Outside, the evening cooled. Somewhere a fox barked like laughter. In the distance, Walter hosed down the grill as if regret were water-soluble. You want to know the funny part? 3 friendships did end that day, but none of them were dramatic. They just loosened. Veronica lost a confidant she never respected. Daniel lost a version of himself he couldn't afford. And the newlyweds lost the certainty that love equals possession. In their place, one small, ordinary adoption that felt like grace. If you're listening closely, you already know what comes next. Tomorrow will arrive with logistics and opinions. There will be forms, keys, bowls, schedules. There will be a conversation on the sidewalk staged like peace talks, and a brief cameo by Detective Collins, pretending any of this is his jurisdiction. And there will be me, of course, behind my curtain, smiling like someone who just watched a neighborhood choose kindness by accident. If this made you feel something, amusement, relief, or the urge to hug the nearest dog, tell me in the comments. I read them all, even the ones that disagree. Tap like if you want more of these small catastrophes with honest endings. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to The Neighbor from 42. Around here, even our barbecues come with plot twists. Now then, shall we see how an adoption begins? Morning came too brightly for a day that had witnessed so much quiet collapse. The air outside still smelled faintly of smoke and apology. From my kitchen window, I could see the aftermath of the barbecue like an archaeological site of human behavior. Abandoned paper plates, one forgotten sandal, and a chair turned upside down as if grief had sat there for a while and then changed its mind. I made tea, this time intending to drink it. The kettle hissed like it was gossiping. Somewhere down the hall, someone's alarm clock went off late. Proof that guilt and hangover share the same rhythm. I peeked through the blinds. Caroline's curtains were open. That was new. Usually she preferred privacy thick enough to hide feelings. Cooper was in her front yard, stretched on the grass like he'd never known captivity. His teal harness, because yes, she'd let him wear it, glimmered in the sun like a small, deliberate victory. Caroline sat on the porch steps beside him, holding a mug and staring at nothing in particular. That's the kind of peace that only comes after you've accepted you're no longer waiting for an apology. I slipped on my robe, crossed the street, and pretended it was just another morning visit. You two look domesticated, I said. She smiled without looking up. He's been up since 6. I think he's guarding me from regret. That's noble work, I said. Most people outsource it to wine. She laughed softly, which was a miracle in itself. The newlyweds texted. They said they'll come by at noon. To talk. Ah, I said. The postscript to every drama. Cooper lifted his head, ears twitching at the sound of the word drama. He yawned, deeply unimpressed by human complexities. I envied that. We sat there for a while in silence, the kind that doesn't need to be filled, because it's already full of understanding. Then Caroline said, I keep thinking about how everyone saw it. The message, the look on his face, me walking away. I should feel humiliated, but I don't. Isn't that strange? Not strange, I said. Just evidence that you finally stopped auditioning for a role that wasn't written for you. She nodded slowly. And Veronica? Veronica will spin her version, I said. She always does. But people believe what entertains them, not what absolves them. She'll discover that truth has a better memory than rumor. Caroline smirked. And Daniel? Men like Daniel don't disappear, I said. They linger until someone notices they've become background noise. Then they call it closure. Cooper sneezed. Perfectly timed. I raised my tea in salute. To the dog who knows when to intervene. At exactly noon, a blue car pulled up. The newlyweds stepped out with the solemn air of diplomats arriving for peace talks. The husband carried the teal bag of dog food. The wife had a clipboard. Cooper wagged once, politely, and stayed where he was. Hi, the wife said. We just wanted to make sure that he's okay? Caroline asked. Yes, she said, and to talk about what's best for him. Caroline nodded. That's kind of you. She gestured to the step. Sit. They did, awkwardly synchronized. The husband opened the bag and set it down between them like an offering. We don't want to cause trouble, he said. It's just, he seems to really like you. He chose, Caroline said simply. And I said yes. The wife's eyes shimmered. He was our first dog. We thought he'd make us more of a family. Caroline reached out, touched her hand gently. He still did, just not in the way you expected. That was it. No tears, no bargaining, just mutual surrender. The husband nodded, slow and quiet. We'll bring over his bed and toys later, he said. He hates the squeaky duck, but he keeps it anyway. Don't we all? I murmured. They smiled through their sadness, stood and left lighter than when they'd arrived. Cooper watched them go but didn't follow. He turned, rested his chin on Caroline's knee, and sighed. The sound was so final it almost broke me. You realize you're a mother now? I said. She laughed. God help me. He's already helping, I said. He sent you fur and forgiveness. By late afternoon, the news had traveled faster than any official announcement. The building chat lit up. Did you hear? Caroline adopted the dog from 46, followed by emojis of hearts, paw prints, and one passive-aggressive thumbs up from Veronica. Daniel didn't comment. He had the good sense, or bad courage, to stay silent. Walter, of course, proposed a community adoption potluck. Emily started drafting the flyer. Someone suggested making Cooper the honorary mascot of the 42 courtyard, and I, naturally, made popcorn and watched the civilization of rumor rebuild itself. Around dusk, Caroline came over with Cooper trotting at her side. He insisted on saying goodnight, she said. Of course he did, I said. Dogs understand closure better than people. We sat on my porch, the three of us, as the light faded into something kinder. The air smelled like grass and the faint aftertaste of yesterday's charcoal. Do you ever get tired of being right? She asked. Constantly, I said, but someone has to do it. Cooper nudged her hand, and she smiled like someone remembering how. You know, I said, everyone's waiting for me to post about this in the group chat. They assume I'll have an opinion. You? She said, mock offense in her voice. Exactly. I think I'll let them wonder. Maybe for once the silence can be louder than the story. She nodded. It suits you. We said our goodnights, and I watched them walk away. Woman and dog, silhouettes stitched together by mutual rescue. She paused at her door, looked back, and gave me a small wave. I returned it, pretending my eyes weren't watering from the breeze. Inside, I finally poured myself another cup of tea. I sat by the window, the same one where I've watched every argument, flirtation, and tragedy unfold. But tonight it didn't feel like observation. It felt like participation. That's the thing about this neighborhood. Sometimes the real stories aren't the scandals, but the recoveries that follow them, the quiet victories no one posts about. I glanced at my reflection, older, wiser, and slightly smug. "Not bad, Evelyn," I said aloud. "You witnessed disaster, and somehow it ended in a dog adoption." The phone buzzed, a new message in the group chat. I sighed, opened it, prepared for chaos. But it was just Walter posting a picture of Cooper with the caption, "Every hero deserves a second chance." I smiled. For once, Walter, we agree. If you've stayed with me through this story, through the burnt burgers, the broken hearts, and the miraculous teal harness, thank you. Maybe hit that like button if you've ever believed in second chances, even for nosy neighbors. And if you're new here, subscribe to The Neighbor from 42. We have tea, intrigue, and occasionally redemption. Now, if you'll excuse me, I think Cooper just spotted a squirrel. And where there's movement, there's gossip. Good night, my dear listeners, until the next story finds us.